Jessica is going to bring us through the technical aspects, the funding aspects of the actual Agile Innovation Fund, and then we will do our question and answers on that. Jessica, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to move this out of your way so people can actually see. I think everybody will be getting a copy of the presentation, the full presentation from today as well. So you'll get a copy of it so you don't have to take notes. But if there's anything that sparks, do write it down, and maybe there's a chance straight afterwards to talk to some of the people directly involved and get that clarification from this aspect. Jessica, over to you.
Yep. So hi everyone, I'm Jessica Reynolds. I'm the technical advisor to the company R&D supports unit within Enterprise Ireland. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the Agile Innovation Fund and how it can help your company. So essentially the Agile Innovation Fund is the development of a new or improved product, service or process where the project cost is less than 300,000. If your idea is a new product or service, it may be suitable for Agile. And if your idea is a new process, it may be suitable for a digital process innovation offer. So the grant rate ranges between 25% and 50%, depending on the size of your company and the support that you're going to avail of. The max project cost that is eligible is 300,000, and the max grant award that is eligible is 150,000. The eligible costs include salaries, so for the people to carry out the work in the project. We also levy a 30% overhead in salaries. We also allow for consultancy costs, so if you don't have that internal expertise within the company, you can hire a consultant to the project. We also allow for some materials if you need to do some prototyping or validation. And we also allow for some travel and subsistence and some certification and clinical trial costs. So you may be wondering, is your idea R&D or is it digital process innovation? So essentially R&D is the development of a new product or service, typically involving the acquisition of new knowledge and skills. It should involve some measure of prototyping, testing, and of new or improved products or service validation. Does not include routine changes made to existing products or processes. And what's really important for us is that the project must demonstrate technical uncertainty and risk. Then our digital process innovation offer involves implementing a new way of working for the company that leads to increase in quality, speed, dependability or flexibility of the company's operations. It covers either process innovation or organisation innovation, or it could be a combination of both. The projects must be innovative and involve some risk of failure and must not be focused on routine or operational changes responding to changes in regulation. Process innovation is a new or significantly improved production or delivery method. So this could be a new automated manufacturing or production process, or it could be a new information management system to inform and drive the business. And organisation innovation is new organisation method in business practices, workplace organisations or external relations. So this could be implementation of digital innovation or continuous improvement of a visual management system across an organisation. So essentially moving away from that paper-based process to a digitally enhanced process. So you may be wondering where to start, what are the steps involved. So firstly, have you identified a product or opportunity to be solved? The next step is please talk to your development agency, so Enterprise Ireland, the local enterprise office, or Údarás na Gaeltacha. If you are all in agreement at that stage, they'll invite you to fill out our 2-page outline proposal document. This takes about an hour to complete. You can email it to us for feedback to our R&D outline proposal email address here on screen. Takes about 3 working days. We'll get back to you with feedback, and then at that stage, if we're all in agreement, we'll invite you to submit via our online application system. So at this stage, we'll be looking for an overview of the company, a project overview and project costs. Along with this, we'll ask you to submit a project plan document. So this should be completed by the technical lead of the project. So at this stage, we'll be asking you to include sufficient information to allow a technical assessor to validate, and they will be looking for, is the project eligible under EU state aid regulations? Are the costs reasonable, and is there a clear R&D element? So you may also develop intellectual property in the course of executing your project. To support this, we have 2 IP offers as part of our combined IP strategy support. So the IP Start and the IP Plus. So Joe Doyle is IP manager and he's here with us today, and he'd be happy to answer any of your queries on the IP or have a chat with you after this meeting. So just lastly, I just wanted to mention a few other R&D financial supports that we offer that I haven't mentioned in our previous slides that I think you might find useful. So firstly, the Exploring Innovation Grant is expenditure up to 70k. It aims to support a better planning of an R&D project. So if you're particularly new to R&D and you've never carried out an R&D project before, you're still in that research phase, the Exploring Innovation could be an option for you, as you might not be ready to do an Agile project just yet. The output of doing and exploring innovation allows you to develop a project plan that could form the basis of an application for an R&D project. So most companies that would do an exploring innovation would then come on and apply for an Agile grant. The exploring innovation now is only open to Enterprise Ireland clients, but I know the local enterprise office and UDROS offer a similar grant called a feasibility study. So I would really advise you to speak to your Leo business advisor on this. Then the RD&I fund is our larger R&D grant of expenditure. In excess of 300,000. This grant is essentially for R&D performing companies, so companies that have carried out an R&D grant before. For example, if they've availed of the Agile grant, they would come on and sometimes then apply for the larger R&D fund. The larger R&D allows for capital costs where the Agile or Exploring Innovation doesn't allow for. Then lastly, I just have our contact details up on this screen here. So if you don't catch us today, you can always send us an email to the R&D Core Unit email address here, or if you prefer to have a chat with us, we do have a helpline number. We also have a fantastic information resource, our RD&I webpage here. So this will actually link to the online system where you can actually go on and apply for the Agile Fund, and it also has the documents that you need to complete. And we also have some fantastic case studies, so I'd highly recommend that you do read them. And then we also have some sample application and project plan documents that could help you to form the basis of your application, and then just a link to Joe Doyle's contact details as well if you need to reach out to them after this meeting. So that's the end of it.
Yes.
So
can you go back a slide?
Yeah.
Yep, top button.
I think we're doing
Leave
Q&A
that one
now.
up. Nope. Yep.
Oh, this one, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going to leave that one up. Thank you very much, Jessica.
Thank you.
But Jessica, you're not allowed to leave us. You have to sit here. I probably need one more chair.
I'm happy to stand.
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, Sive, Amanda, back up here. Thank you very much. Grab a seat. You're in the hot seats. I want to open it up because actually I want to find, first of all, who here is interested in maybe applying for an Agile Innovation Fund? Who's kind of thinking about it and it might be something to consider? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nobody at the back. 8. I've got 8. Okay. Here's your opportunity. Do ask questions, not of us, but ask questions or clarifications from Jessica. But ask any questions because now is a great opportunity to just at least understand relative, does this make sense for you? So, where we go?
Sorry, two questions. The first one is about the fund, and I'm kind of getting that feel today. We've successfully applied before.
Okay.
But I suppose we're looking at a process one.
Yeah.
What I find with all the forms, it very much is leading you into showing sales growth.
Good point.
And I don't think that necessarily should be what it's about, but just interested to comment on that. And second, I think we've struggled admin-wise with the timesheets, recording of timesheets on projects. I'm just interested to hear what the practicalities were of recording timesheets.
And is it something you currently do or you had to do for this piece of R&D, was it?
It was something that we had to do for the Agile project.
For the Agile Fund, but something you wouldn't normally be doing? No. And that would be typical of a lot of companies actually as well. Jessica, do you want to give any comments on that?
So essentially timesheets, I know they're very tedious to complete, and I don't know whether you filled out the Enterprise Ireland, and we have our own sort of templates that we use for timesheets.
Yeah, and I think it changed halfway through our project.
Yeah, and they're always updating them, so what I'd say,
interested to hear from the two case studies.
What I'd say to companies is start your timesheets from the very beginning, record them weekly, because I know some companies when they're doing a grant claim, they'd come say 6 months down the line when they're submitting the claim, the timesheets haven't been filled out.
Yeah.
So start them from the beginning, because that does really make your life a lot easier. And I know from talking to companies, but
have you seen companies that have used clock-on machines for clocking into the project?
We have. They'd have their own online system, but it should mirror the elements that's in that Excel file. because our grants inspection unit are quite particular on the information that they would like to see in the timesheets.
Okay.
But if you do need any, you can follow up with us afterwards if you want to show us that clock-in system, or if you have a different system to make sure that it is going to be eligible for a grants inspection team. Because I know sometimes that works better for companies.
Amanda, this is in your space.
This was really, well, we did it based on because we had to have meetings. So literally we did it off our Microsoft calendars.
Okay.
So that was literally,
Interesting.
you know,
Yeah.
so literally every time you're doing anything with it, literally you're actually setting meetings and setting the timing. So then we just went back into those, and literally you can print out you can actually print out your time that's related to it. So that was literally how we did it. We were able to track our time. Now, of course, there's a little bit of time over and back that you're doing it at other times. It may not be, but 99% of the time when you're working on the project, it's clocked.
That's
that
an
was how we did
interesting
it.
one, isn't it? It's one I hadn't considered as well, using it to capture that. Now, you were in the middle of COVID as well,
Yeah.
so the meetings were all happening online.
But because we were also quite a few people out of sight, and
Yeah,
then
okay,
everybody's
working
busy
remotely,
working on
yeah.
other stuff as well. So even still, like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, it's all on meetings, because you have to basically manage people's time and manage their availability.
Yeah,
So it's all through Teams.
The other question, Amanda, on the process aspect, because you're
Ours is process.
totally process. How did you adapt the application form, or did you just change words?
Well, we're growing as well, if you know what I mean. So maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we're growing as well, but it's
But then that was
related
fine.
growth
We just
to
basically
the
put in
project.
we put in the efficiencies.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we put in
And-
all of the efficiency. We said, right, we need to grow this amount. This is what we predict. We know it's not going to happen if we don't improve our efficiencies, because let's say, you know, it has absolutely no sense of growing unless we can manage the costs. So we just put in all of the specific pieces where we knew that we had to automate, let's say, specific processes, and where we needed to make efficiencies. So you could give certain examples of, so for example, we get information from different outside organisations from, let's say, about 5 or 6 different ones, and we're pulling that together. So we were able to give, let's say, specific timings that it takes to do certain things, and we're doing that, let's say, sometimes weekly, monthly, etc. So, you know, if you think about that, we were able to give examples of how we would really improve the processes.
Okay.
So it is a bit theoretical, because obviously it depends on growing, getting new customers,
Yeah.
because you now can scale, you can now manage a lot more.
Yeah, but I think Sive did a good job saying that. It's not like, they're not out to catch you out. It's
Mhm.
literally the best guess that you can make as to the improvements that can happen. And even if we look at it since, you know, by the mapping of the processes and the process improvements, even we're in the process of getting it finalised, but even just having done that piece, we've made huge savings. So don't forget, even getting it in place, but
Yeah.
even just mapping the processes and the changes in processes,
Yeah.
there's huge savings.
So, Ive, anything you want to add on that?
I hate admin. Jesus, those timesheets. And I'm sure EI are a pain in their face listening to people complain about them. I would guess there is some legislative reason why they have to have them.
Yes.
Otherwise, they'd have got shot of them because of the amount of complaints. How we did them, so like I say, I do whatever admin I'm legally required to do. So timesheets is one of them, and I've done a few of these projects, timesheets, and the way I looked at it was you have to do your project outline. So that's broken down, like the way I think, so we'd have beautiful Gantt charts, and I'd based off the Gantt charts, and I'd have it pre-filled, like, do you know what I mean? I'd know it's kind of part of the plan for it anyway. Now research, you know, it doesn't always go the way it's going to go, but we use that as a plan to follow, and that's how I try to take the, you know, sitting down, sore hand, filling stuff out, trying to figure out what was happening when.
Yeah.
You could spend a week doing that, you know. So that's the way I try to make it as efficient as possible. And I mean, you know, they're not gonna look for, well, I never had anyone ask, like, they do have to check stuff, like they're giving you up to 150k cash.
Yeah.
Do you know
It's
if a
just
bank-
the direction of the data, just to see.
Yeah.
No, I know, because like I say, the bank could be looking for your
Yeah.
credit card details, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it just, as well, when you're getting annoyed, it's good to think about that. But,
but probably is that you had responsibility. I think the key thing is if nobody has responsibility, you're in trouble. But once somebody has responsibility, then it's a matter of just getting it done from that point of view.
Yeah, and use what you've already, like you've had to do the application and all that sort of stuff, you've had to have those charts, so you had to do that anyway, and that's why I base it off,
Of
you know,
course.
and it's kind of, and you can change it, you know, as is necessary, you know, suddenly if, like sometimes as well, with, you know, what you're planning to do, I used not write stuff too ambiguously, but I used to leave myself enough buffer in an application, because stuff goes wrong, or you might be heading towards this market, and you're like, no, oh, this medical, say for us, this medical bin, Jesus, the margin's going to be amazing. Hard, right? So you can build that into your applications a little bit. Now I get better. I've done it a lot, right? So, you know, it's practice makes perfect, like a job interview, I find, that writing those things. And it's still within the scope of what's okay with EI, because they check it. They tell me, no, I need a bit more detail there, or whatever. But, you know, it's just, it's allowing yourself that little bit of room in it. And they're not going to look for, on Tuesday the 24th of June, I did the following A/B clack. Like if it's within the scope of the project, that's been okay with us. Now they'll tell you what they need, if they need more or less or whatever. But it's, again, like they're not trying to hang you. You can ask, you know, and they'll tell you, like, you know, that kind of way. And it's just about keeping that, it's a bit like talking to your bank manager. If you think you're going to need a loan in 2 years, you know, you keep chatting to them and what you need here. I always go out with the bare minimum, to be very honest, because I hate that stuff. But
And
there's ways around.
we want to give you the money as well. We don't want to hold the money from you. So, just to make that clear.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, Joe.
So I'm going to just add something to that point. That one of the reasons that we ask companies to have these processes in-house is that they deliver value at other points as well. So for example, if you're going to apply for the R&D tax credit, so
Good
revenue,
point. Yeah.
we look at it in an awful lot more detail than us, but they don't say we want timesheets and we want this and we want that. They're just going to say, show me. And if you don't have that documentation, then they'll say, well, I can't see anything, right? So having those processes and developing that discipline in-house is not really for Enterprise Ireland. It's for you to be able to manage your R&D better and to capture more of what's going on.
Actually, very good point, Joe, because we had an audit from the revenue on our tax credit claim, and our two defences was timesheets from the people involved, so they were actually used in that, plus also then the IP assets, the application for IP assets, so we're able to show them there was patents applied for, 3D design rights applied for, to bring that level of, they're looking again for that level of uncertainty in that you're not doing something that is straightforward. It's not just normal business. So that was an interesting point. I'd forgotten about that, Joe, because there is a reason, not just from Enterprise Ireland, the funding, but also is very useful for the revenue on tax credits, which you all should be after as well, by the way, as a different agenda.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I can add to your point actually on this, and I just realised actually only last week when we were, you know, with the systems and the fact that all of our IP now is on a system, we haven't protected it enough. So now we're actually going back a little
Joe,
bit
quick.
to
Yep.
do, you know, with the outside companies. So we have to do a little bit more on the NDAs, we have to do a little bit more on the non-competes, and we're actually realised that we're building out pieces that even our multinational competitors don't have
Wow.
in terms of how to actually do some of the stuff. So yes, we have to go back and do a little bit of retrospective protection.
Actually, I was going to I stopped short of saying that as well, that it's also the information that you need to protect your IP.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't documented it, you haven't written it anywhere, if you want to go file a patent, or if you just want to keep something as a trade secret, what information are you going to use? If you haven't written it down, it's all rattling around in people's heads. So it's about getting that down on paper, getting it down in some sort of a system, so that you can then protect it or whatever.
Don't forget you
so
are
there's lots of good reasons to do it.
and you are successful in the businesses that you do, and for us to maintain that. So there's a lot of IP, there's a lot of knowledge in there that has cost a business a lot of money over
Yep.
time, and we haven't done enough to protect it.
Yep. Excellent. Any other questions? Go for it. Yep.
I'm Alex, I'm running the startup company. So the first question is related to IP. I'm not sure if that's to the Agile R&D or to Joe.
Just throw it out there.
I
Yeah.
applied for the patent search, so
Yeah, okay.
the prior art research, the IP Star grant. So
Okay.
let's say if that goes negative, there's nothing to worry about. But, if that goes positive, the company the patent company just gave me an indication of the patent cost. So it's quite significant. So will it be part of the potentially of the R&D Agile grant, or
No, I
And
think
plus-
I think Joe, that's for you.
Yeah, so it's separate. So we have larger R&D grants as well that we can go into today, and there is a patent cost element of that. But separate to it, there's the IP strategy grant scheme that Jessica mentioned. There are 2 grants in that. There's a smaller one and the big one. So the IP strategy is the smaller one. The bigger grant, and well, both of them can cover patent costs and so on. That's part of it. But it's not only about patents.
Yep. So I suggest you chat with Joe afterwards on that one. So where are you depending on the outputs from the patent agent?
Yeah, no, so currently I'm waiting for the AP start.
Oh, the IP
and
start
then
program.
I'll
Okay.
go.
Got you. I think that's an interesting comment I want to make is, and it was something I wasn't fully aware of, lots of times with grants, you can't run them in parallel. But with the Agile Innovation Fund, you can actually get the IP that runs in parallel.
Yeah.
I think the Lean Start runs in parallel. Clarify if I'm right or wrong, but I think you can because that's to help you get the effectiveness out of whatever you're doing. And they have an innovation start or had an innovation start. So you do check out what you can run in parallel, but generally an Agile, one Agile at a time, I would presume. But the beauty is you can go back for more Agile funding for other projects, or maybe it's another part of the same project. But again, it's that level of technical uncertainty is important. One thing that jumped out for me as kind of a coming from an SME background was at one of the sessions, somebody flagged up, can I go and talk to customers? Now it doesn't cover sales and marketing, but if you're trying to identify unmet needs of some key customers, you can actually travel to customers, and that is covered in the Agile because that's helping you scope out exactly what is the specification you have to meet. And obviously then if you're testing with a customer as well, you're testing out a prototype. So very important that, you define what's the uncertainties, those high uncertainties that you need to solve. And some of them can be around that interaction with a customer, but it's not sales focused, but it is that kind of part of the process that is critical that we talked about earlier today as well.
There is a thing if you're an Enterprise Ireland member, because we've been looking at where else we can get funding and what we can do at the moment. There is a key manager or a key skills you can actually employ.
Correct.
2 of those
Funding,
per
yes.
year, and they fund between 75 and 150,000. So if it is something you want to do and there isn't skills, so yeah, we should have employed that person at the start.
But you probably will need to now, somebody
Yes,
to
we do
manage
need to,
that technical process and make sure
But there's so much grants there that are nearly...
it's a job.
Yeah.
You need somebody probably dedicated to it. And again, sometimes my company was small enough. We didn't have a dedicated person, so maybe it is something that somebody has to take under their wing to look at and understand a lot more what's involved, as well as the management also. Any more questions coming in? Yeah, go for it. You're probably the last question. It's 1 minute past 1, but we're doing good.
I suppose you fantastic hearing your experiences, and I suppose aside from Amanda, you both mentioned working with contractors and maybe on the tech side and integrations and APIs. I suppose it's something we're looking at, and I suppose one of those fears is that when you're funding the creation of an API between 2 systems, do you have to put contracts in place about them not selling on that? I suppose the fruits of that labour. I suppose there's a market then for.
We have an issue in the fact we work in an industry that's all about the greater good.
Yeah.
So once you develop a certain amount of APIs and things like that, they don't actually end up just being yours.
Yeah.
So that's the answer in ours. So we're, let's say, when we want to improve some of the APIs that are already there, if we go with the current route, it basically means we're also making our competitors in Ireland better.
Yeah.
But this is the piece I mentioned, though, that we do actually need to sign non-competes.
Yep.
Before we do another piece, we have to do non-competes with our IT company. And that's the piece we haven't done. So that literally they can't work with another organisation the same as us. So that is something we haven't.
So I suppose it's probably just a difficult thing to lock down because they could.
But they will use it because they're using pieces with us that they've developed with somebody else. It's not seen as a compete piece, but that's how they make their money, if you know what I mean.
There is, but I don't know, do you want to add anything to that side? Or?
I have nothing to add to that, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you one company at the moment, they're commissioning with a software company at the moment in Scotland to do some software development work. So NDAs have been signed up front. They got the full brief. And what's happening now is, apart from there is some, existing software out there that it'll be built on, so that's out there available, open source. But what's being developed will be the ownership of the company on completion of the contract. So on completion of the contract, they are meant to sign over the UX. There will be some code written as well, and that will actually have to become ownership of the company. So there's a legal route you can take on this as well if you want to make sure there's no other application of your software. But, there's risk in everything. Let's be very honest with you. They will have a lot of knowledge gained. And the idea, I find, if you're working with a software company, is you're working with them for the longer term as well. They might do this job for you, but you keep up that relationship because they know a lot about how your business or how your product actually works. So maybe, I don't know, Joe, if that's something you want to add to as well.
Yeah, it's part of IP management. So when you contract somebody to develop something for you, they're creating IP for you, or they may create it. So you've got to sign an agreement with them up front that says that what they create for you is going to be officially assigned over to your company. Because it's around copyright. I think you gave an example of a website.
Yeah, that's right. All effects,
so that's the most common situation. Somebody gives somebody €100 to do up a website.
Yeah.
The person who creates the website owns the copyright. They own the copyright. So when somebody writes code for you, they own the copyright on that code as a starting point. Without that agreement that says that I'm doing it because you're paying me to do it, and when I create it, I'm going to assign it back to you. If you don't do that, you don't own it.
So there's a piece of paper you've got to get them to sign.
The question is on the API, because you need the other organisation to agree with you as well, and that's where we're running into trouble, is the fact that we can't control the other organisation, so that's actually doing the writing of the software to match the API, let's say. So, we can write to connect with them and they have to do the same. We can't, there's nothing we can do with that other side. Just...
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I think, Debbie, any more?
Yeah, just to say, just to wrap up, thank you, Sean, for that very insightful presentation, and particularly to our two companies today for giving their time and giving us some excellent insights into their Agile Innovation Fund projects. I'd also just like to mention that we have colleagues here from the Enterprise Europe Network, Anne Dooley, and Delma Romano at the back of the room here. They're going to be present here. If you have any questions on a fantastic network, an EU-funded programme hosted by Enterprise Ireland. It's a business technology partnering opportunities and a lot more innovation supports involved from that network, and they're here to talk you through those supports. There was a few questions about how to navigate our funding supports. I suggest anyone here in the room, you can contact us on the R&D unit, but also contact your development advisor in Enterprise Ireland or your business advisor in the local enterprise office, and they will help you navigate the right funding support for your company at this particular time. We have lunch downstairs, and if you indicate you'd like to meet with us when registering, that'll be from 1:30. And myself, my name is Debbie Nolan, Joe Doyle, and colleague Jessica Reynolds will meet with those people who've indicated that like one-to-one with us. And we will circulate presentations afterwards. There was a few questions as well about IP supports. There's a brochure there on the desks, and each of the tables you can take home with you. Also our R&D funding supports and a leaflet on the Enterprise Europe Network.
Brilliant.
And that's it.
Just want to thank you for your energy and time today, because I know it's busy, but hopefully this is of value. And as I say, you've got the right people in the room. You will get to the source. And any challenges you have, any issues you have, now's the time to at least demystify them and find out a lot more on what you need to do for the next steps. Absolutely want to thank our two case study presenters. Your honesty. And it's a journey, isn't it? It is a journey. It's not easy, it's a journey. Anything innovation related is a journey, and it is about people, but the Agile Innovation Fund definitely supports you on the resources and hopefully on getting to the end goal faster. So well done, thank you very much.